Welcome everybody to Bitcoin Live on the Thursday evening, at least in Holland that is. We got some special guests today, and they are all from Data Guardians. Actually, I forgot to ask your names, but Richard and Johanna, I can luckily read it. So welcome to the show. I should have asked that beforehand. Welcome.
Thanks, you. Nick. Great to be here.
So, we're going to talk about Data Guardians, a very interesting platform, which is focused on AI, crypto, and Web3. But before we do that, we actually always sort of ask our guests to sort of give them a little bit of an introduction. So, tell us about your background and how you got into crypto, sort of the journey.
Sure. I guess I can go ahead and start. So my background is basically building companies and projects that solve real problems at scale, especially across regions that, sometimes people are left out of the conversation. In terms of crypto, I got in late 2016. So I was able to really experience the whole ICO phase and really just experience Christmas every day. With that being said, was also able to dabble in NFTs before they were officially known as NFTs, and then really fell in love with the blockchain industry, especially on the application potential. But in parallel with me, I've also been very involved in the intersection of data, innovation, and scaling businesses. And I think that massively accelerated when I started working at a huge Web3 company, which is actually Drop Group. So I've had the luxury of working with companies like Saudi Aramco, Cisco Paramount, and working on those sort of projects. So that's actually where I met Richard and how we came to found DGen. We saw how enterprises and sovereign AI was accelerating, and basically how little was given to where the actual training data was coming from. So as a creator, what also really drew me into Web3 was essentially the ownership and community. So it's the first time that we can actually design systems where people can control and retain what they create.
Wow. That's very interesting. And you, Richard?
Yeah, I was very, very different, to be honest. I really came in from the startup world. So I actually started my career at City Football Group. So I was working across Man City Football Club, helped with New York City Football Club a bit, and a big focus on marketing, innovation, and data. And then dived from there into AI, particularly, the hardware and the software side, focusing again on growth and the data strategy side of it. So working with Joe at Drop Group, that really kick-started my entry into Web3, really. And then, working on DGen, that was my way in. It really clicked that, it's a way to solve so many problems by applying Web3 tech. That original ideal of financial inclusion really, really clicked. And then, we launched DGen because the pattern we were seeing was always the same. Like, companies needed AI to do more, but good quality data was hard to come by and super, super expensive. So, even now we see news about this. So, big companies relying on data that they've got from anywhere, scraped from the internet, low quality, stolen. And that's really sort of, we saw DGen as a way that we could implement new technologies to solve a critical issue. So it was a really interesting way into the industry, as well as, complementing that with my background in AI, which, it's over a $200 billion industry at the moment, is expected to hit, I think, 4.8 trillion by 2033. So, being able to, exactly, it's like crazy growth. And we only see that, Web3 tech, blockchain application and sort of linking to crypto as well is only going to increase that opportunity.
Yeah, there's a lot of growth there. And I think most people have no idea, especially, most people outside of crypto and Web3, it's sort of starting to trickle a little bit that people are sort of becoming aware, like, what's that AI thing? But yeah, that will be, mind blowing. But, we're talking about Data Guardians, and I got a lot of questions lined up for you guys. But the first
Sure.
is actually a really, sort of easy question, like what's up with the duck?
Yeah, people ask us about the duck all the time. The key duck that you need to be checking out is actually DuckPunk. So he's got his own Twitter account. He's great. He's pure marketing. No, he's not. He's basically the embodiment of our movement. So his backstory was kind of written to show the struggle of what we felt could happen if AI was left unchecked, and he's been fighting back. So we've snuck his expertise in early to head off these issues, and he's also very photogenic. So we use him a lot, but he's a great sort of figurehead for what we're trying to fight.
No, I absolutely agree. And with me, I think he really represents the rebellion against like the black box AI. So some companies want to focus on faceless, closed systems where basically we want to focus on empowerment and open contribution. I think DuckPunk comes in with this great energy, much like a Satoshi energy. So think of him as like the Satoshi of ethical AI, but he comes with that raw, confident energy about where the industry is heading, and doesn't have time to explain the movement, but he feels that by the time everyone else catches on and adopts it, it'll be too late. So I think the space that we're in can often be abstract, and like he really makes it real. So even if you go over to his Twitter accounts, I think he definitely says things how it is, how he views things. And, a lot of people are afraid of stepping on toes. I think this is a really cool way to educate people without having this like centralized figure that doesn't back empowerment.
Yeah, it makes it easy and approachable, right? I mean, because it can be kind of intimidating when first, newbies come into crypto or Web3, and a duck is.
Yeah, he's our decentralization as well. He's the figurehead, and brings out the big punchy points. I mean, he's just been speaking recently about one of them. So I really encourage everybody to go and check out his Twitter. You'll learn a lot, but he's a great combo of Web3, AI, and facts. So
I think he makes a great NFT also, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, watch this space. There's going to be a lot with DuckPunk going around, especially on Twitter. So
I used to play really cool Hunt right on the Nintendo. Shows my age, but.
Yeah, I mean that's been his naming was a big discussion at one point. So we were looking around, and like Duck Hunt, there's potential for a game there for sure, linking him in, and then also like obviously Daft Punk. So if you look back on his Twitter, he's DJ'd a bit. Well, yeah,
cool.
He's got a lot of talent.
So speaking about sort of the ethical data that you already sort of mentioned, how different is Data Guardians in that regard to other platforms?
Yeah, for sure. So to me, our mission is simple. We want to redefine the relationship between data, AI, and the people who power it. So most companies today and people are focusing on the interfaces, and we're focusing on the supply chain, how data is actually created for AI. Right now, AI is often seen as magic, but behind the scenes, it's often stolen, some synthetic, high volume, and like really low quality. So as someone who uses AI daily, I really want AI to be the best it can be, especially if it's here to solve problems for their future generations. So with Data Guardians Network or DGen, we believe that it requires real human values, frontier data. AI is just a tool in the end, and the human input really makes the whole different if it's given the right context. So that high quality is very essential for AI and its future potential. So we believe that we can definitely do this better in a more human involved way than what's out there right now. So our amazing community of Guardians, they can actually earn USDT by completing gamified missions that help us create or annotate data. So the data can actually be lip sync, facial recognition, pattern or image focuses, and so much more. I think paying people properly for their time is very critical for us. So we wanted to include people all across the world in DGen and give them a way to earn and learn and do it all at the same time. So we didn't like how exploitative the industry was getting for data capture and annotations. And, people are casually giving data for free, but more than half of them aren't being compensated for it. So when it comes down to it, we really want to create pathways. So regardless of your economic status, your religion, your nationality, like we want you to have a place in what we're building. I think that the world and industry are just shifting so quickly. So I think that our systems need to keep up as well. And if proven right recently, like if you look at LLMs today, they're heavily trained on web scale scrapes, books, articles, art, etc. So companies are facing billions in payouts and news stories on exploitative annotation processes. So like that's not sustainable legally, morally. And then you have all of these incredible people who are contributing to these systems and they're getting left out. But
do you want to add something to that, Richard?
Sorry.
No, it's no, it's completely
so much.
Joe's hit the nail on the head. And, our approach is really that consent plus compensation and also like a cryptographic proof. So we've created a framework by which, we can filter the harmful low value data. We provide just the best quality possible. And then, we anchor that to blockchain and provide that proof of not just the data and where that's sort of traveled, but also of the payment to people. So, we end up being able to really provide massively enriched data sets with cultural, linguistic context, deeper context than many other options out there today. And we really want to turn data into that auditable contextual asset, not a liability, which we see a lot of companies struggling with right now.
Yeah, and that's something that we're sort of gonna dive into a little bit deeper. And you already sort of mentioned the blockchain. So, how does the sort of decentralizing annotation work, and how does that sort of shatter AI monopolies?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is right now, a handful of companies dominate AI and AI training, the sort of the data that goes into that. So little decentralization is there, and there's not a broad input into the data that they create and or annotate. So, they set the rules, decide who gets access, and they profit disproportionately to those who actually have a huge impact on that data set. DGen is sort of that's completely flipped. So we've got the DGen token that underpins our whole process for the community. It really gives the community an opportunity to influence not just our direction, but the decisions by staking it to get access to premium missions, more rewards, that kind of thing. And it's also a value return system. So we are paying people in USDT so that there's a consistent earning option that's always stable and fair. And then the DGen token provides the extra opportunity and value add. So, we really, really are giving back to the people who are really helping us build the opportunity and this crazy high quality data.
And I think like decentralization just really breaks that chokehold. So anyone with a smartphone can contribute. So our framework that we mentioned earlier, that really ensures that your input is actually log paid and legally defensible for any enterprise company. So DGen powers this, and that coordination layer that fuels rewards, staking, and governance. So that is the result of what we're building, which is a sovereign data layer that no single company can basically monopolize.
Makes sense. And I heard USDT.
Correct.
So how does that work? I'm sure many people would love to know.
Yeah, so we basically got an instant payment system. So we ask people to connect a wallet. Typically, like we suggest they connect Phantom Wallet to our platform.
Yeah.
And They complete an annotation, and basically that goes, they earn USDT from completing each annotation. And that builds up, and they get paid straight to their wallet. So it's a system built on accuracy as well. So you're rewarded for annotating as well as possible, and also we train people up on how to do that. So it's a really good way for us to incentivize, but also it's pretty global. People understand the US dollar just as as a first port of call, and then USDT tied to that. It makes it very easy globally, which we really want Data Guardian's network to have a massive global impact and bring people in from as many countries as possible.
I think another thing too is more so the fact that we really love to give people the option of stability. Obviously, we want people to be a part of the token side and having fun with that growing aspect. But when it comes down to it, actually getting people a sustainable income that they feel really comfortable knowing that it's actually pegged to the US dollar, I think it gives them sort of peace of mind, especially when it comes down to any play to earn model. And when it comes down to it too, we're basically an ever evolving platform. So right now we have a couple of modules, and one of the first modules we built is actually swipe to earn. So that focuses on image annotation, and we've built out our modules to basically deal with urgent problems that we've already seen. So we want DGen to basically provide specific data that helps AI consider and succeed on what's actually designed for. So less of that generic caseload of low quality data. But when it comes to actually looking at swipe to earn, again, we wanted to make it a very familiar sort of interface, almost where it feels like a Tinder, for example. Imagine opening your app and you're basically shown an image of a busy street. So the mission might ask you swipe right if you see a bicycle, and that's it. It's simple, quick, mobile first. And then you basically draw a box around that item and then label it. So obviously the more items you see, the more you can label, but that's just the beginning. Again, when it comes down to the frontier data side, we wanted to focus on what kind of data can anyone and everyone sort of contribute. So I think our other modules, especially the ones that are on the way, we're super excited to tell more people about. That is definitely more focused on the inclusive side. So can't wait.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the familiarity, but also the stability of the stablecoin. Of course, we were just talking before going live. I have actually a regular job next to this one because of the volatility of crypto, right? So
yeah, for sure.
It makes a lot of sense to pay people out into stablecoins instead of crypto. And is there any particular reason that you chose USDT besides being the biggest stablecoin out there, or is that sort of the reason?
I mean, yeah, that was one of the critical reasons. I think Tether have obviously been a growing sort of behemoth in the area. USDT was kind of an easy option for us to look at and integrate into the platform first. I think pretty much most people have probably heard of it. Tether have an incredible growing reputation for what they're doing outside of just USDT as well. So that was just a brilliant opportunity for us to tie it into DGen and make the payment a way to really grow and to build with something that was also making a difference already.
Yeah. So how does the staking of DNG boost rewards, and what governance features are live or planned? I had to read that one because
yeah. So the DGen token. So staking the DGen token helps people, our contributors, level up, I guess. So they can stake tokens and unlock higher paying missions. So that's to earn more USDT on a premium mission, and there's also that governance side that we are building out, and basically people will be able to contribute to decisions, whether to make a data set public to sell on a marketplace, who can buy that, who we can, to some degree, work with, as well as the direction of the product or a new module or an improvement on the platform and prioritizing some elements. So it's skin in the game, and the network, we reward commitment. So the people who are there all the time, they're going to benefit the most. The people who really commit, and they've got the opportunity to really change their lives, which is really something we wanted to do. And we've also built in a quadratic voting system. So that formula prevents any whales basically having unreasonable power or decision-making opportunity. So again, it's as equal as possible. And actually we launched the token on pump.fun. So then it was a fair launch. No investors or sort of people getting better opportunity. It also meant that we had to buy our sort of what was set out in our tokenomics back. So it really was trying to be as fair to the community and our vision as possible.
Yeah, and transparent.
Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think especially when it comes down to it too, that governance is rolling out in layers. So first, token holders can start by getting premium mission access, and then the influence for mission categories, and then even reward pools. So as Richard mentioned, they'll be able to vote on policy packs and create rules and really give feedback and direction on where they want to see this platform going. Obviously, when this is community backed, we want their input. We don't want to just build something and then have it completely closed off. Right now, we're working on building that foundational layer where it gives the people something to work with. So similar to how OpenAI has ChatGPT, you have so many different opportunities to build and create on there. However, right now it's you need that platform. Where do the people come? So we're working on creating that pathway. Yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, I lost my thread there. But yeah. Ethical AI, that's what we're talking about. How would you define ethical AI?
Yeah, to us, it really means three things: consent, compensation, transparency. So right now, if you look at most AI models, they can't guarantee any of the three. But Rich, if you want to speak more on that.
I think that summarizes it so well. There's obviously a performance angle as well, which links to those three, which ethical data, it isn't actually just the nice to have and the probably what is best for society, etc. It's higher quality, and that actually has a big impact in the process for any business as well. So our initial project with Drop Group showed over at 98% accuracy on the data set with faster delivery and lower cost, but that actually meant that it would train AI models faster and to a higher standard. So that meant that they spent less money on GPU time and the electricity cost there per training round that they had to go through. So ethical AI, it's actually really positive. It's better, it's faster, it's more scalable, but it just needed a company to really come in, try and grab it and work out the process to make it really easy. And that's what we've tried to make sure that we do, to make it really easy for people to join DGen and to earn USDT and to help us with the annotations, creating the data sets, but also make it really easy for any business to come and see the benefit and get that data really fast.
Yeah, and to make AI less scary, because a lot of people are, of course, afraid of losing their jobs and all that kind of stuff. This makes it more fun and inclusive.
Yeah, so true. And it's one of the pieces that is also on the roadmap, is really around that education area and helping people understand AI better, to learn more, but also training them so then they can have a future job in the industry. AI is only growing. there's going to be so many more jobs created by AI, and we want to give an opportunity for everybody who joins our platform. This is a first step in, and then we want to give them the next step and help them set out that road to maybe having a career in AI. And I think that's something that Joe and I were both super focused on, and still are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think when it comes down to it, the industry is uncapped with potential. Like, look at Web3. You don't necessarily have to be a trader. You don't need to be a developer. Like, there's so many different angles that you can essentially get in. And obviously, the sooner you step in, the more experience you'll have in the long run. I think one of the forefronts of what we're building right now is being able to come in without experience, but leave and having experience. I think it's really cool to sort of build out these different modules. And, we're in discussions right now with trying to find these sort of accredited institutions. So instead of people just saying like, hey, by the way, I'm learning within the platform and not having proof, we want to be able to give you that social proof, that credential or accreditation. I think it's super important to us to make sure that we provide the most value to anyone using our platform. And as we've said many times, it's just the beginning.
Yeah, and it will be a big transition. I mean, economically but also socially, like a lot of people, it will be quite a sea change, right? And so it's smart to get in early and just get involved, right? And you guys provide that platform for people to get involved and get educated, or re-educated, I should say.
Exactly. And I think any growing industry, it's about having those pathways in to get to that. Otherwise it can seem really daunting. Brand new industry. We managed to combine AI, Web3, and people can branch off where they wish. But I think having those pathways is really, really important. And there aren't that many at the moment either, as the industries are pretty early still.
And I think go ahead. Again, there's just so many things to cover, but especially when it comes down to, I guess, the educational component side, I feel like a lot of people right now are really focusing on obviously the algorithms, the prompting side. And then what's sort of being left out of the picture at the moment is how to correctly label the data, how to correctly store that data, how to correctly, manage the data that's getting inputted to all of these models. And obviously, if we're able to provide that solution where people can come in, even without experience, learn and grow, I think that's super cool. Like, the industry is constantly evolving, and we need to create pathways. We have to look at the landscape of what it is today. When you're in the middle of a job, let's say, you've been in a career for quite some time, you may not necessarily have the financial means to kind of transition out of it. You may not even have the time. Lord knows if you have any other commitments on the side, but it can be very daunting, can be very tricky. So what are some paths that, keep people engaged, even having the pressure of a regular job on the side, or having whatever life kind of puts in front of you on the side? We really want to find ways to sort of gamify curriculums as well. So it's not just standardized, it's more fun, more attainable. Like, even looking at micro courses, it's a lot easier nowadays to complete and actually get access to a ton of information in a short period of time. And how do we meet people when they're constantly moving around? We have to give them something that's really accessible, something that they can access anytime, anywhere. And obviously, they're not just tied to a set amount of hours, right? Like, with Web3, sometimes people are up until 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and that's just the industry. But, it's the really cool thing. It's like, for me personally, that's my peak period, from like 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. And, everyone's different. Everyone learns different. So, I think that's really cool.
And everybody has different amounts of time, and
Correct.
You can hop on the platform whenever, and you can learn something, you can earn some USDT. So whether you're putting in 20 minutes a day, an hour, 6 hours, like, there's potential there, and you get something serious out of it, which is great.
Yeah, and Duck Punk makes it fun.
Yeah,
but
exactly. Duck Punk's
There's
around just
always
helping
ducks.
out. So.
But you also mentioned like traders and developers, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that sounds easy, but for everybody listening, and if you're not a trader, trust me, that's not easy.
It's very, and this is the cool thing about Web3. Like, we have so many communities now. I remember, like, back in the day, obviously, again, like, especially during the ICO times, it felt like Christmas every day. But after bearish periods where there were certain friends that tried to get in a bit later, like, they had no idea what to do. They didn't have the right support systems. I feel like now, especially with content, community, all these things popping up, like, the industry is just so different, but it's so inclusive at the same time. Like, I have mad respect for companies like Pumped Out Fund, because they're building out their own trenches. They have that really dedicated community that is super loyal, and they're actually helping each other out. Back then we didn't have a GMGN. Like, look at all of these awesome bots and awesome tools that we have now, like, especially with Bird Eye even. I think the industry is just in this really, really cool place. And a lot of people are always talking about adoption, but it's very rare that, people are taking the initiative to really push people in. So that's what we're trying to do.
And talking about community, you got like a very lively, active community, which is now here in the chat. You mentioned like the governance, like, and you get feedback from your community. So what are sort of some of the things that they suggested that you guys should, do or implement?
Yeah, I mean, I've recently been speaking with the first community users who have got onto our Telegram app. So, it's great. We talk to them as much as possible, get feedback from the early people on the platform, on the Telegram app, on, even just simple things like the UI UX. How has the design felt? How has the flow felt versus how easy is it on mobile? It's just something Joe and I have spent, I mean, it must be up to weeks now, looking at designs and flows to make sure that, like, okay, we can be super mobile first. Anybody around just with a phone and a connection to the internet can use DGen. So, they're hugely important, not just in that support and joining the platform, but actually how we can move forward, how we build it out, whether it feels right, whether it fits with what people expect as well. So there's all of these factors that play in, and despite the fact that it's all still fairly new, they've been absolutely incredible already in helping us and making us work harder on some things, refocus on others, make some things better, as well as you as soon as you give it to someone who's not internal, you always find, I think, 10x extra bugs or issues, which is always a nightmare when you're speaking to someone and they found something like that. But equally, it's so helpful, and they've the people I've spoken to have been incredibly supportive.
Yeah, it's better that they find it and that you can fix it, right? Yeah. And that they're supportive and optimistic about it. So yeah. And then one of the nice things about the whole Web3 scene that I experience is that it's very easy to communicate, right, with the people who are following you, or it's very easy to network and make friends and people.
Yeah, and it's been absolutely incredible with just people reaching out on Telegram to us, not just saying, oh, this is like, is this what it should be doing, but also, oh my gosh, I absolutely love this part. It looks so great. This just is brilliant. I found this so much fun. And I think that's one of the real big things with Web3 communities that I've found, in that there's also that real celebration of, okay, this is a cool thing. This is a really great win. Like, everybody piles in on the good, which has been really great to see. And also is really good for us, validation of, yeah, this is the right way to be going forward on this section. And that's been really, really great. And as well as obviously their support for Duck Punk, I think Duck Punk's been resonated well with them too.
That's a good choice. And also just to sort of tack on to that, like a platform or a project without a lively or active community is sort of dead in the water. dead dog. That's a live dog. We need a live dog. So sort of to get back to the questions, like something more serious, but with lawsuits against like Anthropic, how does Solana provenance protect users and clients?
Yeah, so I mean, we've seen Anthropic sued this year, OpenAI, I think, as well. A few others are on the way. You know, it seems like there's a pretty long laundry list of legal issues coming up. I think it highlighted a huge liability that was hanging over AI, and it was sort of everybody knew about it, but nothing was kind of being done with it.
The Wild West.
So yeah, you know, nobody knew what was in the data sets, but equally we saw like Studio Ghibli suddenly mocks coming out of OpenAI or whatever. And it really highlighted that everybody was at risk from this, and you know, any creator especially. So when specific cases come to light, it becomes pretty easy for someone to create a case. You know, a lot of the models have used data that's difficult to trace, let's say, or prove that they haven't scraped that from the internet, that they actually own the rights to use that data the way they have. And, you know, we really want Degen to be able to show that golden thread of this is where the data comes from. X number of people have worked on it, and, you know, control who may have input in the data set. Maybe you only want people from one country or who speak one language, like whatever that input is, that becomes possible. So, you know, if you can defend where each data point comes from, and the consent is associated, which it is by people using Degen, then you know, you're in the clear from a legal standpoint there, which is really, really important and is becoming a pretty big issue for some of these AI companies. I think the Anthropic issue was what, a 1 point something billion payout, which is pretty crippling.
You know, absolutely, I agree, and I think that's where like why provenance really matters, especially on Solana. I think it's really important because every decision on our pipeline is sort of anchored as a Merkle root. So regulators can actually audit, enterprises can actually prove compliance, and contributors can really show that they were paid. So we call it from moving AI from a black box to an actual auditable trail. So that's where the future is heading. And understandably, that's where compliance is really non-negotiable. I think I wake up every single day watching the news or reading something where it's like there's a new lawsuit here, here, and here, someone complaining about IP infringement. There are constant things that keep coming up. And to really solve that, I think that, you know, AI is so powerful on its own. It's a great accelerator, and blockchain is the perfect ledger to kind of record all of that, all of these incredible transactions. Like if you look at how people are using LLMs today, constantly trying to get the right outputs, think about how many transactions are constantly coming up. Like, what is the one ledger, a mutable ledger, that can essentially keep up with that volume? We need to be able to understand traceability. We need to understand where this information is coming from, especially in the sense of when enterprises need to, you know, dive in and basically, you know, create their own closed loop models. They personally want to know where is that information coming from. So,
and I you know, it's my impression that Solana is also trying to rebrand itself. You know, getting away from the
come a long way.
Yeah. I really, you know, we're doing a couple of shows on decentralized science, but you know, this is also a project that sort of shows sort of the other side of Solana, and that it's not just about, you know, rug pulls and scam, but actually real projects with real potential, and you know, that's really cool. So
yeah, and also it's become really great in that, you know, the speed, cost efficiency, and scale. And to be honest, you know, that was a really big draw for us, as well as security wise. There was a report recently came out that put them, I think, in the top 3 So all of that really contributes to our decision, and how that all links together. So those are critical aspects, especially when you're sort of rebranding yourself.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good way to do it by having super important and useful technology.
That's sort of like a tie-on question. Like, do you see Solana actually, taking Ethereum from number 2 in the future?
Oof.
That it's tricky because there's so much being built on top of it. I think it's a solid foundational layer, but just knowing the sort of institutional ties that Ethereum has, like a lot of people don't know of how many use cases there actually have been, like behind the scenes. Like I think it was as early as 2014, maybe earlier than that. But sort of very early in the Ethereum stages, they started exploring Ethereum as a supply chain tracker. And this was for companies like, Walmart and, farms and all these different use cases. And so I think Solana is still at a very early stage. It obviously has introduced an incredible community. But I think it really depends on the perspective that you're looking at. So whether it's just going to overtake on the community utility side where people get to build on, have fun with it, or if it's also going to overtake in that sort of more corporate sort of infrastructure as well.
Yeah. My feeling is that Ethereum will be going down at the end of this run. But
I'm not going to put it out there, but there's certain things go without saying. But yeah, Solana definitely has huge potential. And again, this is something that really attracted us to Solana rather than, other chains. I think the really cool thing about it is that's currently where the community is. There are so many people who are very pro Solana, and obviously they understand the deeper community connection as opposed to other chains. Gas fees aside, but that's another conversation for another day.
It's an entire conversation. Yeah. Now, and how do you ensure fair labor and exploitation on the network?
Yeah. Look, let's be honest. Traditional annotation has had really bad rap thanks to some shady approaches. So sometimes it's looked at as digital sweatshops, long hours, underpaid workers, and obviously no transparency. Why would there be? But we honestly believe that that's not how things should be. And we thought that with Degen, we can actually build something that brings people maybe even out of poverty, provides pathways for the unbanked, and actually brings more people into Web3 and crypto and actually upscale them. This is the really, really cool thing about what we're doing right now. Again, it doesn't have to be long hours. This is something that people can take with them. Work doesn't necessarily have to feel like a chore. And when it comes down to the future of work and future of education, there are so many opportunities, so many options. It's really interesting because, the potential is uncapped. And basically now when it comes to the payouts and, how people get involved, people don't necessarily need to get paid by fiat. People from other countries can get included in the conversation. And, as a whole, we could just be more inclusive.
And also there's that, we wanted the contributors to get paid directly in USDT so that there aren't any middlemen, which really helps on that part, on that focus. And, we have algorithms to assess anybody that's trying to game the platform. So, there's a singular wallet connection, and it's, that's tied to your personal Rebel ID, which is unique hash that's minted as you sign up. And that all contributes to ensuring, we minimize exploitation. And also, we've got a built-in quality assurance score, which again is a sort of a 3-layer system that includes humans in the loop and AI as well, that rewards accuracy and not just volume. So, that's another way where actually it makes it a harder system to game. and because every transaction is transparent on chain, there's less area to hide in the system.
That's good. And now to the fun stuff. Do you have any cool stuff in the pipeline? I already saw somebody talk about the Telegram app and maybe other modes of, or other stuff that you've been working on.
Yeah, so I mean, we just raised that $5 million pre-seed. That was led by Drop Group, who we ran our sort of initial beta test with, as well as investors from across MENA, and that's our fuel to accelerate our adoption and really build out the tech vision we have planned. So we've got that Telegram app, have a few users on that, and that's going to really be a big thing for us in the next few months. And that's huge because that's there's hundreds of millions of people on Telegram, all of whom can earn USDT directly from Telegram via the DGen app. That's a massively easy entry point. That's truly global, so that's a really, really exciting one for us because again, it's very mobile first. It's widely used around the world.
I think that goes back to also meeting people where they are. That's why, of course, like Telegram was such an interesting approach for us. But beyond that, we're obviously working on rolling out more modules. So more social challenge style modules where you could actually challenge your friends on. So that's super cool. But we also have our updated platform designs rolling out soon with better tools, general improvement, all the things. That's something that's been very near and dear to my heart. Obviously, the platform is what it is at the moment, but that was never the final vision. We've always envisioned more accessibility, different ways that we can include people, and we're constantly iterating. So we also have some really big announcements coming, partnership successes, and even sovereign level data governance frameworks. So with that being said, we also have a couple events that we're speaking at. So we're always looking for more ways that we can bring more people onto the platform. So we've got a pretty packed quarter coming up and we're super excited.
Is that in Dubai by any chance?
One of them might be. We'll definitely keep you posted. Are you heading out there for any of the conferences?
I wish. not at the moment. It doesn't look like it.
Got
but,
it.
yeah, it's on my list, on my to-do list. But probably next year, not this year.
Got it. No, it's especially with Abu Dhabi being right there. I think the communities down there are starting to feel a little more like home. Obviously, it's great seeing everyone between Token and Futurist and all the other great conferences. But I think that's the coolest thing about this industry is actually meeting up globally, and it's these people that are avidly on our platform who are constantly engaging with us. Like any chance that we can obviously meet them, we always encourage that they let us know whenever we're in their neighborhood. So hopefully we can meet up with them too.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi is basically the crypto capital of the world, by now.
Yeah. So we know, yep.
Yeah. And with you also got like Scale AI, it's very fast, low cost, high throughput. So how do you want to compete with something like that? Like what about the competition?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're doing fine. They're valued at however many billion now. But their model is also very centralized. It's quite expensive to get data from someone like Scale AI, and it's pretty. It's fairly opaque as well. And actually it ties into, I saw a question pop up, I think I got this right, asking about our sort of embodied common sense ideal. And, through frontier data collection, like instead of scraping the internet or any other method, like we're really incentivizing people worldwide to annotate, capture, and validate real world interactions. So speech, gestures, environmental signals, physical constraints, and it creates data that's really transparent. It's auditable, tied to lived experience, I guess is a good way to put it. And it means that when an AI model trains on degen data, they gain that embodied context and that sort of context layer, not just in language patterns, but how objects behave, how humans interact, how physical world can constrain possible outcomes. And that has so many applications across medicine, robotics, to just, general everyday AI models that people will use or experience or, maybe not even know is there, but is behind the technology that they interact with every day. And the auditability layer that, we ensure is there, make sure that the data can't be stolen or fabricated at scale, which makes it uniquely valuable compared to, the wider use of synthetic or scraped data sets that's going around right now. And, audit trails, they're tough, and cost and speed of delivery can be difficult if you're, trying to be flexible and move fast as a company as well. So getting that deep context at speed and to work at the speed that you're working is rare, and our network and our contributors really turbocharge that delivery time, which augments the opportunity for any business working with degen.
So it's like the turtle on the hare, right? Eventually the turtle gains on the hare. It's they might have a quick start, but they'll run into difficulties later on.
There's multiple ways of attacking problems, and I think we've really tried to use the best technology to solve the problem in the best way possible for as many people as possible, including the people creating the data.
Yeah.
And honestly, we outperformed like most people in the industry, just even with our beta tests, like with drop group. So the focus was faster, cheaper, and more accurate, and obviously legally defensible. So it's one of the key reasons that they actually invested in us. But that is really the holy grail that we're trying to focus on, like that speed, quality, and cost compliance. Like those four are the top tier. And obviously with regulation tightening, we believe that the last piece will basically decide who survives. On top of that too, like we have to remember that scale AI is an entirely different business. They're paying out what they are. And with us, we're really focused on trying to find ways to really monetize opportunities for the average person, for anyone who comes onto our platform. It's really important to us to show people that they're actually huge value adds. With that being said, with our company, we're more focused on turning verified contributions, verified human input into a whole new asset class. We want people to get paid for these contributions that they already have access to, because everyone's uniquely positioned with all of their experiences. And I think it's really cool that people are now able to sort of put data and present it in ways that we can potentially use them as solutions in the future. I speak to a lot of friends in different industries and constantly challenge them to see what are sort of the gaps where AI can perform best in. And even looking at something like the medical industry, there are so many people who want to cure cancer, who want to, even focus on breast cancer, for instance, but they don't have the data. There isn't enough data out there. And this is constantly something that, is quite a struggle. This is something that synthetic data can't necessarily replace, especially considering the fact that there are so many different faces and skin types and age groups. Like, you need to make sure that the data is large enough to accurately represent the problem that they're trying to solve. For instance, there's all of these different machines nowadays, and they're trying to remove the friction point for sales. And they essentially focus on, selling the fact that this is a solution where people can essentially scan their face, and the person scanning their face may not even be accurately represented in the data that it's being trained on. Like, if someone scans my face, I don't know if the people scanned prior to me, they were around the same age group, if they were, even female, if they were the same ethnicity. All of these things play a huge part in the overall output of the data that comes out in the end. So I think there's a ton of opportunity for people. It's not just annotations. We're, again, trying to build out on more than just what Scale AI is focusing on. We're trying to focus on real human frontier data.
So you can say that Scale AI is doing it fast and loose, and you guys are very thorough, comprehensive, and meticulous.
Trying our best.
Yeah. And also, I think there's, that visual recognition part is a really interesting one, because I think it was a few years ago that there was a model that was meant to be used in shops and recognize like croissants and bear claws and things like that. And turned out that actually it was way, way better at recognizing cancer cells. So, there's this sort of wild misunderstanding or sort of lack of understanding at times of what these visual recognition models, for example, will be able to do and where they actually work best. So, data is the real thing that has such a big impact on that. And, I think Joe's highlighted, some really important ways that's difficult in real life.
Data is the holy grail.
It's
Yeah,
the new oil.
new oil.
Exactly. See, great minds think alike.
Yeah. So I actually also got another question that I just came up with just now. Like, what excites you guys the most about this space, but also, about your own project?
Do you want to go first, Joe? I can go first. I mean,
I can go on and on, but go ahead.
I think for me, there's multiple layers to it, obviously. I think the way that we're bringing people in to AI to make a difference, to train them up, to give them opportunities, to help them earn USDT. And even from the beta, actually, there were some people who were part of that, and the amount of money they could earn through the platform was really, it made a real big difference in their life. I think having built something, into the base of how DGen works like that, that's just incredible. But also where this can go, both for DGen and the industry as a whole. I think having the context layer that we're really looking to create, and that human in the loop, that input from people all around the world, I think that can really help us hit the top of AI's potential. And that's really what we want to enable. And I believe that DGen does enable any company working with AI to really challenge, to hit those heights that it can do, and make it a massive change for societal good.
And you, Johanna?
There's so much to be excited about. Look, a couple of years ago, I was more than excited just to see APIs connected. Just looking at, certain forums getting connected to Sheets, it made the most difference to me. And now you look at it, and again, looking at the sectors from medical to future of work, future of education, there are limitless possibilities. There are so many different issues and challenges that we can now tackle. With that being said, that also poses a huge opportunity for opportunities, further opportunities within the space, and basically to give more people pathways and really get their toes into something that might seem very overwhelming, very difficult. It's really cool to know that people now have a way to kind of get introduced to the industry. They don't have to get left out of the equation. They can actually be as involved as they want to be. I speak to so many people on the daily of how they use AI, and it's always those people that you may not necessarily think that they've already adopted it, and yet they're the ones who are constantly using these different LLM models on their everyday. They're finding ways to essentially get involved and basically just use it, whether it be in their business or their personal life. There are so many different cool pathways. But I've seen some really cool use cases, and what I think is really interesting is the amount of data that's actually out there. Like, you have to see how these governments, like the banks, like how much data access they actually have access to. If you look at something like ChatGPT or OpenAI, I believe it's ChatGPT, but that was trained off only a few petabytes of data, whereas bigger banks like a JP Morgan, they have access to so much more. And that being said, if we have access to all this real information, then we can also dive deeper into bigger solutions.
Yeah, those are two very beautiful answers. And well, you both already touched upon this, but I do want to sort of ask it anyway. So, with AI, you always have this issue with biases, right? With underrepresented areas or groups of people. So how does sort of degen fight this issue or help combat it?
Joe, do you want to go first? Or
Sorry, do you mind repeating the question?
Sort of, AI has always issue like with the data it trains on. You get sort of this sort of biases within the AI decision making process. So how do you sort of fight this issue by sort of making it more inclusive?
Right. Again, when it comes down to the bias, this is why monopolies are sort of frowned upon. They sort of dictate everything. And when we make something more of a democracy and add more people into the loop, it then gives a bigger, wider data set. You don't want to just focus on this limited pool. I think, again, solving these bigger issues and even something like that facial product case study, this is something that, again, requires a ton of input because evolution changes bodies in total over time. Like, the way we do things now is entirely different from how we did that a few years ago. And I think there's never going to be a shortage of data, and there's never going to be a shortage of that need for them. All of these models are going to be constantly evolving, and obviously, as time goes on, we want to make sure that more and more people come onto the platform. So when it comes to a bigger community, it's not just going to be quicker speeds. It's also going to focus on different outputs, and biases will definitely be limited in the future.
And also, especially as we move towards, innovations like Joe mentioned, as we move towards more like control by voice, having our global network of contributors, we're actively diversifying data sets for voice control. So, that focus is really, really important. If you just have responses from a single location, that's fine. I think most of the training data today is typically English and Western dominant, which just isn't a global view at all. So that's one of the real benefits we see with degen for this innovation that we can see happening. That local language, dialect, that can be built suddenly into technology, which is how people will interact with it in the future. So that then creates AI and a sort of a point of contact that performs inclusively, and really, that's across demographics, across cultures, across geographies, and that makes it not just fair, but really functional.
And AI can only help us if it actually understands us. So you look at these different models right now, or just to solve like an everyday problem. Imagine you're traveling to somewhere like Spain, and you don't necessarily know how to speak Spanish. Most people might type in, translate whatever context to Spanish. You need to understand that when it comes down to these models, you really have to focus on the input to get the best output. So looking at Spanish, obviously there are so many different dialects that people can focus on. You can have like a Puerto Rican Spanish to obviously more Catalonian, and that goes the same in different dialects for other cultures like Arabic, or even looking at somewhere like the Philippines where they have so many different islands. Every single island has their own dialect, their own phrases, and the data that we have right now, the access to the information that we have right now, it's only representing what's out there. So if people aren't actively going into these communities, keeping up with the constant innovation and changes and the shift, then this data will be outdated. And so when it comes down to it as well, I think we're at this really cool, exciting period where, all of these solutions that we're seeing today, they're starting to tackle the problems of language barriers and things like that. And obviously down the road, it gives a big opportunity for tourism. And looking at something like Saudi Arabia, for example, it's definitely part of Vision 2030 to create initiatives for tourism, to get more people included. And with that being said, if you have a Filipino nurse that comes in and is helping out in a hospital, and you have, let's say, a gentleman who speaks only Arabic, how are they going to communicate? Especially in the hotels, like a lot of people are very Arab native, which is obviously incredible. But for the tourists that might not know any Arabic, they might struggle. And, staying in a few different hotels in the region, I've run into some cases like that, even with them being 5-star hotels. So I think down the line too, to be able to supply like this wide variety of data to these companies who are trying to actively solve these problems, that's really interesting and really exciting.
So sort of the community and the users are really important in that sense, in general, right, for AI, because like you say, otherwise it gets outdated, right? It gets
Yeah,
that's
exactly. And it's that global cross section that's really, really needed. And that's part of why we've built our model out the way we have. And if you look at the dgen.io website, there's multi-languages on there. We're really working on making the app multi-language as well, so then we can cater to as many people as possible as fast as possible.
So in that sense, the metaphor data is the new oil is quite literally true, because you can actually run out of oil.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is, once that happens, then you're in trouble. And these models need training initially, but then they need retraining to keep up the accuracy level. So more data is always required during their lifetime, these models' lifetime, and to train new models. So, data is the new oil is really, really accurate, and you're always looking for new sources. So that's why that our global contributors, that's the guardians, that's really, really valuable for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so you have to secure your resources in that sense. Yeah, I actually also like the name DGen. I just sort of realized it during the conversation, which is probably also where the duck comes from the D. And okay, got it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the final question, like, what is your vision for Data Guardians Network and sort of for the broader NFT, Web3, crypto space going forward?
Yeah, I mean, from me, I mentioned a little earlier, it's pretty simple, and that's really making AI reach its true potential, but bringing people with us while we're enabling that. So bringing the rest of the world with us too. And that's going to happen with DGen as the ethical, traceable context layer for AI. I really, really believe that. And models without context are basically just imitation machines. Models with that verifiable, human curated context can actually reason, and that's how AI is going to make the next big step change that really affects us all. But we've all helped get it to that stage and got something out of it as well, which I think is super, super important.
They have soul.
And Web3 is that incredible way to build that system of trust. So that's where the data actually has receipts. The contributors can have ownership, and enterprises actually have that legal defensibility. So we really believe that the future of AI won't be decided on the biggest models, but the ones who are best governed by the data. And that's what DGen's building.
That's beautiful.
Dunk NFTs coming soon as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So for the people listening, follow them if you haven't yet. I'll show that up here. I think I got it open here. I think I got you guys open here somewhere. Not, I didn't. Okay, sorry. Should have had it open. There we go. So for the people who are not following them, follow Data Guardians. Here is the link.
Yeah, there we go. At Data Guardians NK.
And I'll make it a little bit bigger for the people to see. So I want to thank both of you for being on the show. I really enjoyed it. I actually also learned quite a bit. So that's always nice. And are there any final remarks before you leave?
Stay in touch, guys. Again, I think this is something that is obviously super cool, but that's just my opinion. Obviously, we want your feedback. So please, anything that you see, any ideas you have, feel free to reach out to us. Stay in touch. We really want everyone's opinions because we're building this ultimately for you.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better. And thanks so much for having us on.
And thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Take care.